Hello everyone, welcome back to Beginner 4Runner Mods on YouTube. Got a really exciting mod for you today. I'm going to be installing a TRD Pro style grill for my 4Runner, as well as adding some Raptor lights. One thing that is different with this install compared to most others that you see in the market is that I ended up getting the Pro grill and the Raptor lights from two different merchants. So the TRD Pro grill I ended up getting from Yota Xpedition, and the Raptor lights I ended up getting from Cali Raised LED. Neither one of these companies sent me these products, nor am I affiliated with them in any way whatsoever. After doing a lot of research, I ended up deciding on doing this combination because I'll explain why as we get into the install, but I really liked how the Yota Xpedition grill looked, as well as the fact that the Toyota letters on them was able to be screwed on, as well as the Raptor lights has the ability to screw on as well. So I'm going to do a quick unboxing right now. The box is already open, I already checked it out, but just in case you wanted to know what exactly is inside the box, I'll show exactly how it came. Okay, first up, the Pro Grill from Yota Xpedition. So it looks pretty well packaged, bubble wrap, styrofoam. Here are the Toyota letters. One thing that I thought was really cool was that the letters that I got were completely blacked out. So they had, I believe, three options. Normal kind of silver that resembles the OEM. Then you have these kind of blacked out versions of the letters, as well as kind of like a camo variety too. So as you can see here in the package, you have actual screws that attach these letters onto the grill itself. So this is very different from other grills that you see on the market where it's just stuck on with double-sided tape, and potentially it could like fall off and all of that type of stuff. So really excited about this. All right, so here is the middle section of the grill. It's a really nice finish, really smooth, kind of matte black finish. So one really cool thing about this is that if you prefer the completely smooth kind of stealth look, you could have that here, right? So there's no markings on the front, and then for me, as I'm going to be installing the letters, it does require holes to be drilled in, but they're really clearly marked all over the back. Where you would need to drill in for the letters to screw in. So then this is the upper mesh part of the grill. I mean, I've never seen what the actual OEM Toyota like upper mesh grill looks like. I could only imagine that this is fairly close to that, but this is where my Raptor lights will be installed as well. So once again, the Raptor lights did not come from Yota Xpedition. I got that separately. And then the only other thing that, oh sorry, the other thing that came in this package was some of these adhesion wipes. Don't really know what that even means, adhesion wipes, but it just might be kind of like just like a rubbing kind of alcohol pad or something. But I will be cleaning my grill and using these before I attach the center part of it. And I believe Yota Xpedition is still offering this really cool promotion, but if you sign up for some of their marketing emails and text messages and stuff, they give you like a really cool kind of baggie of like swag. You get a couple of patches and stickers and key rings and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty cool too. So stickers and stuff. So Definitely worth it. Okay, that's it. All right, now with the one reason why, so Yota Xpedition also has a set of Raptor lights available for their grills. However, I did not go with theirs because I wanted the 3 Raptor light version, not the 4. I think it just, personally, I think it just looks better. And the other reason why I went with Cali Raised LED was because, as you'll see in a moment, these Raptor lights actually screw into the grill rather than kind of like clipping on. So here's what it comes with in terms of here's the Cali Raised LED Raptor light kit. So I'll just kind of lay out the so I did get the smoked amber version. I believe they have a clear version of this as well as they may or may not have like a white LED version of this. I can't recall, but since this is the 3 Raptor Light version, these Raptor lights are a little bit bigger than the 4 set, the 4 version set. So you have like your three Raptor lights, little sticker, kind of cool. Have some zip ties to fasten all of the wires once you're done installing. You have the screws that actually attach to the back of this backing plate. They fasten this this plate to the actual back of the Raptor light here, and then you have your wiring harness. So this is actually long enough, as you could see. It's long enough for you to connect this to the fuse box that's underneath the engine bay, as well as the one that, hopefully the one that is underneath the dash as well, which is where I'm planning on doing it. So so these 3 connectors just connect to each of the 3 Raptor lights, like so. And then on the other end of the wire, we're going to be doing some modifications to this, because I think the way that they send it to you is that they're assuming that you're going to maybe connect it directly to your battery terminal or something. So they do have a, let me just open this. They do have an inline fuse built into the wire. This looks like to be like a 5 amp fuse, if you check the writing on there. So this is kind of ready to go if you just want to connect it to like a battery source directly, or if you don't have an out of fuse, it already comes with the inline fuse here. I did, however, opt to get the optional out of fuse kit, which looks like this. So this is what I'm planning on using to connect it to a fuse slot that's underneath my dash, and I'll explain why when we get to that point. But so we're gonna have to do a little bit of basically have to snip the wires, crimp them onto this, and then kind of connect it to the, like I said, to the underneath of the dash where that interior fuse box is. Okay, first things first, we're gonna do a little prep inside the inside my home first before heading out to the garage to do the install. So to get the letters attached to the midsection of this grill, like I said before, we're going to be drilling holes in these spots here. So we're going to be using a 1/8 inch drill bit, and going through each of these. I'm going to just take my time, go very slow, and you know, make sure that it's that the drill is like centered on each of these little dimples here. we're going to be attaching the letters with this hardware that came with Yota Xpedition. So it's pretty self-explanatory. They just kind of screw into the screw holes on the back of each letter. The only tricky part that you might find is which way to for the letter O, which way to use. So according to their install guide, there is on this little kind of ring, you'll see that there's a little part on the bottom that looks different. Put this out, like, see this part right here? This part goes on the bottom of the letter. So this is the top of the letter, this is the bottom of the letter. Hope that makes sense. So this is how it will be, and then on this one too, this is going to be the bottom of the letter, this is going to be the top, so it'll be like this. Alright, to make it a little bit easier to put the letters on, I'm just going to fasten these screws to each of the holes first, then I'll put the letters in and tighten them all up. So you are drilling in, or sorry, you are screwing into plastic, so just minimal force is needed here. Alright, so I just put all the screws into the holes that I just drilled, and one thing you would just want to double check and make sure is that as much as you can, try to get the head of the screw kind of flush with the inside of the grill. Obviously, if the screw is sticking out, it will affect the ability of this tape to be effective. So at a minimum, or try to get it as close to flush as possible, or at a minimum just below the height of this actual tape. So if you see from this kind of side angle, like you have a couple of them maybe sticking out a little bit, but hopefully that will still be good enough for the tape to adhere to the grill. So you just don't want the screws to be sticking up like beyond the height of the actual double-sided tape. Alright, so now we're just gonna place the letters, line them up like so, and then I'll just do this like I said before, just make sure you have the letter O kind of oriented correctly. So I'll kind of time-lapse this and just screw them in to the holes here, and then I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. All right, so I just screwed in all of the letters to my grill right now. Everything is pretty fixed, pretty secure. There's no gaps between the letters in the grill. I really like how it looks. I really like the fact that it's secured with screws. There were a couple of, for the most part, like most of the screws were tightened pretty tight, but there's a couple of ones like this, the top of this O right over here that was just, no matter how much I was screwing, it just, like the screw was not tight. But I would say like out of about a dozen or so of these screws, I would say only 2 or 3 of them ended up being loose. Like here's another one that, like, even though the screw lined up with the hole in the letter, it just didn't catch the way that I thought it would. For the most part, they're all kind of tight except for 2 or 3 of them. But if it becomes a problem, I'm sure I could get replacement letters and like attach them back onto the grill. But like I said, they're not going anywhere. Pretty happy with how it turned out. All right, so one additional step that I'm going to do, just to make me feel a little bit safer, is because these Raptor lights, when they're positioned in the grill, they do stick out quite a bit from it. So I'm actually going to take a little bit of this silicone sealer and just put it around the in between where the plastic and the I guess like the clear plastic and the backing of the plate, around this whole area, just to kind of waterproof it, just to be safe. Again, probably totally an optional step, but it'll just give me a little bit more peace of mind if I do that. So I do have a little plastic fork here to kind of clean up the excess. If you have like one of these I guess tools that you have to usually clean up caulk and stuff like that, you could use that as well, but I'm going to try to make the best of what I have. Once again, this step is completely optional, but it made me have a little bit more peace of mind when these Raptor lights are right in the front of my grill. Once you do apply this particular silicone sealant, it does say that it needs about 30 minutes to dry, so we're going to go ahead and wait, and then once they're done, we're going to install them on the grill. Alright, so what we're going to do now is just to screw the Raptor lights onto the upper mesh part of the grill. So Alright, so that took way longer than I thought to attach one of the lights, but it's in there nice and secure. It's screwed in on the back here. So the one thing that I realized about the Cali Raised LED lights is that it's probably different from other Raptor lights there in the market, is that it doesn't actually snap into anything. So it's just kind of floating. Okay, so I was finally able to get the 3 Raptor lights installed on the upper grill. I think it looks really nice. The only other thing that I want to mention, because it wasn't clear on Cali Raised LED's installation video, is that these Raptor lights actually stick up on like above the grill. It doesn't sit like inside of the mesh compared to a lot of the other products out there in the market. So all in all, I mean, when you're looking at it kind of head on, you can't really tell, but you know, that's kind of how it was designed. And then of course all of them are screwed in the back. So all in all, I think it's a nice look. It fits with the Yota Xpedition grill. Can't wait to see how these light up when I have them installed in the truck. All right, so we finished our pre-work. Now comes the fun part, taking apart the OEM grill and replacing it with what we just put together. So first things first, we need to take this kind of cover part off. It's really super simple. All you have to do is each of these little buttons here, if you press the center of the button, you could just lift up the clips like this. So there's a whole bunch of them. There's like probably 10 at least that you have to do to do that. So I'm gonna time lapse this and take them all off. Alright, so now that that plastic cover's off, there's going to be two kind of little button clips here, one on this side, one on this side, and then a 10 millimeter bolt down here that has to be, you have to take off. So these, in order to take these off, you just have to kind of pry them up with a screwdriver or some type of pry tool. Be careful with these. You don't need a lot of force at all. You just have to get your pry tool underneath this circle part, and then it should lift right up. All right, so now that that's done, basically this front piece is ready to come off now. So the best way to do this, I think, is to just there's a few clips holding it in place. So I think if you grab it from each kind of corner and kind of pull, it should come off. Kind of scared of. Okay, took a little bit of elbow grease, but I was able to finally yank this thing off. It is going to be a little bit hard to pull out if you've never taken this part off before, but I have a tendency of like breaking plastic, connect or plastic tabs, but thankfully it doesn't look like anything was broken when I pull this out. So, all right, now that we have this part off, what we're gonna do, we have to separate the. So my 4Runner is obviously like army green. We're gonna take this front body color kind of part, separate it from this black part, and then attach this green part to the Yota Xpedition one. So in order to do that, there's going to be screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, a bunch of screws from left to right that you have to take off, and a couple of tabs also that you have to press in to take the part off. So I'll do that off camera and let you know how it works. So. You also have to take this kind of bracket off of the factory OEM grill so that you could reattach it back to the Yota Xpedition one. Alright, so I took off the bracket and all of the screws in order to get the cover off of the old upper grill. There's a tab right here and then another one over here. You kind of have to press them both in at the same time, and then the front cover of it should unlatch. And then same thing on the other side, one over here, and then one over here. Press them both in at the same time. All right. I might actually hang this on my wall. Kind of like how it looks, but we are gonna have to reattach this part to the Yota Xpedition grill. Alright, so here's our brand new Yota Xpedition grill with the Raptor lights on it, and we're just going to have to fit this into this cover that we just took off. As long as you see the tabs are through the holes, like over here, over here, over here, and then over here, that means the front part is on. So you can go back in and retighten your screws. Alright, so I was able to screw the cover of the upper grill on, as well as the bracket. So as far as this part goes, it's all done. Of course, we've got our Raptor lights here. What I'm going to do now, we have to actually prep the surface of the center part of the grill. Right now it's like covered with dust and dirt and everything. I want to make sure that we have a clean surface so that the double-sided tape adheres to it as well as possible. I'm just gonna grab a quick soapy water solution and just give it a good wipe down, as well as use that adhesive, those pads that came with the grill, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I just quickly put together a quick solution, just a wash of dishwashing soap and water. I'm gonna give it a nice kind of spray, and then use a microfiber cloth to kind of clean it up. Any kind of dirt and grime and debris will could affect the ability for the grill to kind of stick on here. To get the bottom part of the grill too, which is going to have some, we're going to have some, the part of the grill stick to the bottom as well. I really have no idea what this thing is. It's all in Chinese, but it does say adhesion promoter. So it did come with my grill, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a wipe down with this as well. Right. Well, it did take some dirt off, I guess, but all right. Now comes the trickiest part of this whole process: getting the middle part of the grill attached to that. So what you want to do is take the red. You want to take the red backing off of the double-sided tape. So you'll see that there's tape on the front part of the grill here, 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 and then some strips on the top. I'll show you. So I'm going to take all of these red pieces off on the front part. For this top part, I was actually expecting Yota Xpedition to give me one long piece, but it looks like it got broke up here, so it's okay. We'll do about 2 to 3 inches on each side, about this much. Fold it back. And probably the same on this side. All right, so this should be good enough for you to position the grill, and you want to just take your time, make sure that you kind of put it in from the bottom, and then so kind of put it in the bottom and then rotate it like upwards, and then make sure that the tape sticks to it. So I'm trying my best to not mess this up and center it as best as I can. Okay, that looks about right. So it's a tiny little gap over here, but it's pretty even on the other side too. So once you're happy with this, you're gonna have to press it in. Make sure that tape holds. Let's take a quick look at it. All right, and if that looks good, then last part is to do is to stick the top. Look at how that's looking so far. And I'm going to put the upper part of the grill on now too. So when you're putting the upper part of the grill back on, just make sure that these tabs inside they're fitting below this little lip. Otherwise, you won't be able to snap it back into place. So this one's below this lip, and then the same on the other side over here and over here. So I think everything is okay. You should be able to just pop it back into place. Hold on. So cool. Alright, so after you snap in the upper part of the grill, don't forget to put your clips back in that you took off before. Here, this one, and then so I'm going to try to connect the Raptor lights now, and I'll show you how to do that. I guess this is like the brake fluid, but right over here, there's a little grommet where you could actually pass the wires through. So I'm going to try to like pull this out and fish the wires through that. So this is the OEM grommet that I pulled out of the firewall, and I picked up this grommet assortment kit, I think from Harbor Freight, for like a few bucks. I think it was like $4 or $5. It's got like 180 pieces. You might see this on various third-party sellers on Amazon, or but don't overpay Amazon's prices, because I think I was looking for this exact set with these varieties, and they were like 10 to 15 bucks sometimes on Amazon. If you have a Harbor Freight, go there. It's totally like only $5, I think. So so when you pull this out of the firewall, the size that we're going to replace it with is this this size right here. This is going to be the 5/8 inch diameter, inner diameter 0.477 inches, outer diameter 51/64. So this is gonna, when you pull this out, this is the grommet that we're gonna replace. Please do not skip this step and think that once you pull the OEM grommet out that you don't need to put anything in that hole. The wires that we're going to be dealing with are very really fine, like you could see here. This is a really thin wire with really thin insulation. It's not going to take a whole lot for this insulation to strip out, and then you're having, copper wire touching bare metal, and it could cause a short circuit. So this is a really important step. Absolutely, please replace the grommet that you took out with one that you could pass the wire through in, like this one. So unfortunately, the wiring that the Cali Raised LED Raptor lights came with, there is absolutely no way for this inline fuse to fit into like this tiny grommet. So what we're gonna have to do, so they obviously provided you this this inline fuse thinking that some people will like connect it directly to the battery, which is, in my opinion, like a bad way to use it, because then you don't really have any control over being able to switch it on and off. But essentially we're gonna have to like cut this wire from here and then strip the installation off and then pass it through the firewall and then crimp it onto my out of fuse wire here, like after it gets passed through, because this is also not going to be, this is going to be too big to fit through the grommet too. So I'm gonna cut this wire off. Looks like it's going to be an 18, on this wire it's going to be like an 18 gauge that you want to use your wire strippers for. You don't want to don't pull off too much insulation. I think about 1/4 inch or so should be fine, because you're gonna have to like crimp it in this connector here, and you don't want too much exposed wire coming out of this butt connector here. Okay, so now that we have this, you can see here this could obviously fit through, and we just have to fish it into the firewall at this point. So we're gonna fish this wire through the hole in the firewall down there. It should, you want to push as much slack as you can. It's going to end up coming out in the interior, close to where the emergency brake pedal is. So it may take a few times to kind of get it to clear because there's like padding and stuff in there, but keep trying to kind of push it through, and you should see it come out through it in the interior. So I'm just gonna feed it through, and then of course we have our grommet on the wire as well. Okay, so the wires that you fish through the firewall will come out of this spot right here, and you want to have enough slack in the wire so that it could reach the fuse box that's where's the fuse box? That's over there. So okay, let me know. Okay, now that the wire is fished through, we're going to take our add a fuse here, and we have to crimp the positive wire, the red one, to the end of this. So this looks to be a blue connector. So on my crimping tool here, looks like it's going to be the 16 to 14 gauge setting. So let's do that. I'm going to twist the wires to make sure that we don't get any, it's nice and solid. Stick it through the connector. Alright, so I crimped that connector on, and you want to just give it a light tug to make sure that it's on there secure. So it's on there nice and good. Doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Now I'm not actually sure if the add a fuse wire from Cali Raised LED uses heat shrink connectors, so I'm not going to try to put heat on this. It seems pretty secure, but I'm just going to leave it as is. And now what we have to do is connect this add a fuse to a fuse slot in the up here in the fuse box. Okay, can you stop for a moment? So we have to pull a fuse out of the interior fuse box, but in order to do that, there's a little fuse puller underneath the engine bay fuse panel. So for those who are not aware, just press this button in, pop it open, and then the fuse puller is right here. Just want to take this out and use this to get the fuse out from the interior. So when I get in underneath the dash, I'm actually going to tap into the tail fuse. Now there's so much information online, on YouTube, on forums about how to pick a fuse, how to connect it, how the switches are controlled. Do you use an ignition one? Do you use an accessory one? Do you use like an always on? Basically, it really depends on the application that you're trying to do. So for me, I wanted my Raptor lights to only turn on when I had the low beams on. In other words, when my headlights were on, I wanted the Raptor lights to be on when my headlights were switched on, and for it to be off any other time. So when my engine's on, the ignition's on during the day, I did not want my Raptor lights to work. So I'm not going to actually film the entire process that I went through in order to figure out which fuse to use, but if you guys really want to know how to pick the correct fuse without any doubt using a multimeter, I can make a separate video on that. But suffice to say that you need a multimeter to number one, check which of these fuses are hot whenever, depending on what circumstance you want it to be in, whether you want it always on, ignition on, or switchable, depending on what you're doing inside. So there's a whole process to do that, and for me to test it. So and also to test the level of amperage and the current that's going through the fuses as well. So you do not want to connect your Raptor lights to a fuse slot that is rated at a much higher current, because then the fuse will obviously blow, your Raptor lights fuse. And you don't want to connect it to a fuse that is significantly lower, because then the current draw from the Raptor lights will blow the OEM fuse. So what you're trying to aim for is to find a fuse that is around the same neighborhood in terms of amperage as in terms of the fuse you want to pull out. So for me, for the Raptor lights that I'm connecting here, the actual fuse, the inline fuse that was on the connector, as well as the outer fuse, both were rated at 5 amps. So I'm going to find a 10 amp fuse in order to use, and that, you know, like I'll show you on the interior diagram from the interior fuse box. So you can see here that the top left fuse is rated for 10 amps, and this is the tail. So what this means is that power to this fuse slot will always be off until you trigger the switch that will turn on the tail lights. Then this fuse will become hot, which is exactly what I want. You know, I did do a series of tests to make sure that this fuse does not become hot when you just press the brakes, and then so the brake lights and the when it's brighter, the tail lights when they're brighter, and then the third brake light, that's on a separate circuit than just this one, which is just turns on when you have the low beams on. So I believe when you press the brakes, there's some other fuse somewhere here. I don't know which one of these, but it's one of these that actually gets power when you actually press the brake lights. But for the way that I want it connected, I'm going to be using the tail, which is switchable. and the Raptor lights will only turn on when the taillights are on in low beam mode. I apologize for the really bad angle here, but it's a hard place to get a good video. But I am going to be taking this top left, right where my finger is covering right here, where it says 10. That is the tail light, the 10 amp fuse tail light that I just showed you. Okay, that fuse is now out. We're going to add this fuse to our add a fuse kit. So you guys might have noticed on the add a fuse kit, the way that it came exactly from Cali Raised LED, they have it actually connected incorrectly, where they have the 5 amp fuse for the Raptor lights on the bottom slot and then nothing on the top slot. So you want to keep whatever fuse, this one that I pulled out of the fuse box, the OEM fuse, you want that to be in the bottom slot, and then you want the accessory that you're connecting, in other words the Raptor lights, which will feed power through this top, to be lined up with the top slot. So I'm actually going to switch these around, take this fuse out. We put it in the top slot. And then this 10 amp OEM fuse that came out of the fuse box will go on the bottom slot. Okay, I was just making sure that the fuse is pushed in all the way, because it looks like the Raptor Light fuse sticks up a little bit higher than the OEM fuse here. But now that this is correct, this is connected correctly, where you have the one you pulled out on the bottom, and then the Raptor Lights fuse on the top slot. Now this is ready to be plugged back into the original fuse slot, the one that we just took off. Now the other thing that's important here is that the orientation of the fuse slot, so meaning whether you connect it this way or this way, it makes a big difference, because you have to, the way that these fuse slots work is that the side that's hot needs to be connected to the left side of this add a fuse, right? And then the right side is where it actually goes to ground. So you need to, this is where also using a multimeter could help, because you need to verify which one of the metal contacts is the hot side versus the ground side. So I'm gonna just get my multimeter out and just confirm that, and I'll let you know on my vehicle which side is hot. Okay, so I just went and got my multimeter off camera, and I tested both kind of leads within the fuse slot, and I figured out that, at least in my vehicle, I can't guarantee that this is the same for everybody, but I'm pretty sure it is, that the metal contact on the passenger side, so this side, this side towards the middle of the fuse box, or the passenger side, so like going that way, that side is hot. So that means that side has to be connected to the left side of the add a fuse, and I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so this is what it ends up looking like with the added fuse. That means the wire is actually coming out of the driver's side like that in order for the lights to work. And of course we're gonna test this out before we like put everything kind of back together. So okay, don't forget to or don't make the same mistake I did and forget to connect the ground or the black wire for the Raptor lights. I'm going to loosen this bolt right here and essentially just slide this connector in the back and then tighten it back up to make that ground connection. So I'll go ahead and do that.
Okay, daytime lights, parking lights, okay, headlights, and high beams. Okay.
Okay, so once you put the added fuse wire in your fuse box inside, obviously this cover will not fit in because of the thickness of the wire. So I was able to pick up this really cool extended fuse cover from, I believe it was Minwin 3D. They're the supplier for the Dr. KDSS product. So, but I was able to get it from I'll post a link for this as well. But this is really cool. You obviously don't want to lose this. This is really important information. So this just fits in right here. So that way you'll have it. And then this whole thing will fit into the to cover the fuses, and we'll have enough clearance for all your wires and stuff to go through as well.
You need to put the cover back on.
All right, now that everything is confirmed to be working, we just have a little bit of cleanup to do with the cables to make sure that it's tucked away and zip tied away. I'm gonna do that off camera, but I'm really happy with how it looks. In terms of how I like it, I'm really liking the way that I'm really liking how the Raptor lights are looking. They look really high quality, really bright. The grill, I think, also is really nice. I really like the Yota Xpedition grill. It obviously is a fraction of the price of the OEM,